Hi, my name is Cassandra Dinkelman. I'm the Education Support Officer at Down Syndrome Queensland. Thank you for joining me for this webinar about communication. If you have any questions, please contact Down Syndrome Queensland on 0733566655 or send an email to me, edsupport@downsyndromeqld.org.au. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the First Nations people as the traditional custodians of the land that we are on today. We acknowledge and pay our respects to all elders, past, present, and emerging. As with any other students, those with Down syndrome vary greatly in terms of communication. Some will be verbal with a full vocabulary. Some may speak in simple sentences, while others have one or two word utterances. And for a very small proportion of the population, they may be non-verbal. Regardless of ability, we need to ensure that all students have the ability to communicate with us in one form or another. If a student is unable to communicate their wants, desires, and needs, then we're more likely to encounter behaviour and emotional issues as frustrations rise and they perceive a feeling of isolation and segregation. For this reason, it's important to get to know your student, how they communicate at home, and replicate that as best you can in the classroom. If there has been little advancement or intervention in terms of communicative modes in the past, it will be up to you to implement whatever you feel most comfortable with. This webinar will provide just a few suggestions, but always be open to what the parents have been doing in the home setting, both what has worked and not worked. Remember, our goal is to give the student a way to communicate their wants, desires, and needs in whatever way is most beneficial to all involved. What we need to understand and recognise is the importance of communication in an individual's life. Just think about a time when someone has misunderstood you or didn't hear what you were saying and continually asked you to repeat yourself. It becomes very frustrating very quickly. And most of the time you might find yourself saying, "Don't worry about it." Now imagine that that is your life. It's easy to understand why students with Down syndrome may start to show frustration or anger or unwanted behaviour. In order to overcome this, we have to provide communication avenues for all students. These may be one of the ways that we discussed today or other ways. The most important thing is to give them a way to share their feelings, wants, and concerns. As well as these, we want to continually extend their vocabulary and structures to help improve verbal communication, but ultimately to meet the individual where their needs are currently. Remember, if you don't provide individuals with a way of communicating, we're making them live in a silent and lonely world. So what we'll look at today, we'll start with sign language, keyword sign, communication books such as POD and PECS, communication boards and lanyards, and then visuals. Sign language is traditionally a way for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing to communicate to one another. In Australia, we use Auslan, which is the Australian Sign Language, and this is a vast community with many social clubs, traditions, and support networks. For our students, it may be about these things, but primarily it offers verbal and non-verbal individuals the opportunity to communicate with others. Auslan's a whole sentence language, and it's not usually accompanied by any speech. It was developed by and for Australians who are deaf or hearing impaired. It's a visual form of communication that uses hand, arm, and body movements to convey meaning. Sign language is very expressive and requires the signer to exaggerate and use body language to show emotion. You can access further information from the Auslan website, and there's also a dictionary with videos on how to sign the words. So within the dictionary, you just type the word that you want and it will show you the action associated with that word. Deaf Services Queensland offer short courses in community sign language, which can be done over 8 weeks for 2 hours each week or over 2 full days. I know of people who've done the course and said that they're fun, engaging and educational and recommended. They come at a cost of around about $185. Also, there's a couple of iPad apps available that can assist to learn signs, but you will have to put those signs into sentences yourself. So for full Auslan, it's best learnt in a community and through practice. Here are some of those apps or some of the places that you can find support with learning Auslan. And let's move on then to keyword sign. So keyword sign is the use of signs and general natural gestures to support communication. It's verbal with the main word signed, encouraging and supporting language development. The main word or concept of the sentence is the one that we focus on to sign, and it's taken from Auslan. So it's using the Auslan signs, but not in the sentence format. There's an iPad app called Keyword Sign available on iPad or mobile devices for about $40. And on there, you can make your own sign resources or books or communication aids, print any or all of the signs, which has 600 words from the Australian vocabulary, print with or without the sign descriptions, access your camera roll and print using your own photos, which is a great idea. View video clips of signs from the interactive vocabulary or finger spelling and numbers. Check Auslan signs from the Auslan sign bank, or you can use one of the Auslan ones from the slide previously. At Down Syndrome Queensland, we have some new books in our library. They're books about a character's day and what happens in that day. All have illustrations to demonstrate the Auslan sign that goes with each word in the sentence, and you can borrow these from us. So let's have a look at an organisation in Singapore using Australian keyword sign to assist individuals in their education and employment opportunities to communicate understanding.
Keyword sign may be likened to learning a new language or embracing a new culture of communication. In order for keyword sign to be used effectively, people need to be immersed in a signing environment. At Minds, we encourage the use of keyword sign through various channels. Not only do we use keyword sign in our daily interactions, we also introduce keyword sign during school assembly.
Make a small circle. Purple.
Placing posters featuring sign of the week and fun signs in strategic locations, using signs in songs and curriculum teaching.
Alright, keyword sign. Okay, this is a system that we use in our school. Actually, it is especially important for our kids without speech. They are able to communicate, so at least then their confidence level will go up. At least they are not so frustrated. And also because we introduce it in the school, at the school level, so the children who have speech, but they also pick up the signs very quickly, and then they can communicate with their friends. And that also means that the pupils with speech and without, they can also go on like making friends, etc.
Mommy, what are you eating?
We have finished baking. Time to clean the table.
I'm able to get my clients' attention. They are able to imitate me. Clients with limited speech are also motivated to speak more, utilizing the keyword sign. When I sign and talk with them, they are able to comprehend well.
Okay, so looking at communication books, we have PEX, which is the Picture Exchange Communication System, POD, which is the Pragmatic Organisation Dynamic Display System, or Proloquo to go or Pod with Compass, which are iPad applications, and they imitate a physical pod book. So PEX is a picture word communication system, picture exchange communication system. It's fully customizable and focused on learning. It's a beginning communication system. The person picks the picture and exchanges it for the item, and that allows the student to communicate their wants and needs. It's encouraging speech development through mimicking and mirroring. There are 6 phases of PEX. So that starts with single picture exchange for a desired item, then moves on to using the picture in different places with different people, and then they go on to selecting what they want from 2 or more pictures, constructing simple sentences using I want, and then they focus on answering questions, what do you want, and using the sentence starters I want. And then they would finally move on to answering questions using sentence starters like I see, I hear, or I feel. And just to give you a demonstration of what that's like, or a bit more clearly, I have a video here to show you.
Today I'll be showing you a communication system that's called PEX. And then here's an example of a PEX system that a client uses at the clinic that I'm working at. For this particular PEX system, it's for a 4-year-old client, and he just started using it about 6 months ago. And for his system, he has a front part that he's been using with new pictures that he is learning at the time. And then inside, he has pages with different pictures to create sentences at the bottom. For this first page, for example, it's labeled with toys, and there are preferred toys on the page that he can use and labeled with pictures there. On the back side, there's more toys up here as well. And then the next tab that he has is different activities. And for example, there's the bathroom, bike, outside, twirl. So these are different activities that he can do. And there's more activities at the top here for the play zone, running, walking. And then the next tab is for different foods that he prefers. And then there's more foods on the back side of it. And then the next tab that he has also been working on describing different items. So he has different colors here, and also he's working on the description of little and big for describing items. And then also he has more description words with long, square, and short, and then container. And then his last tab are just miscellaneous pictures at this time. And he has been working on especially I want sentences. So he has the picture with I want, and he has currently been learning I see. And he also recently added the word and. Then other pictures on this page are hug, book bag, shoes, cloud, tree, and socks. So these are other items that he could use. And so as the client goes through and uses this PEX system for communication, especially at this point that he's on, the stage that he is working on, he's using I want. So if he wants something, he would take I want, and the blue strip down here is where he creates sentences. So he would say I want, and for example, if he wants a reinforcement of riding the bike, he would go back here to the activity page and pick the picture of bike and put it at the bottom here. Then when he has his sentence complete, he takes off the blue strip and hands it to whoever he wants the item from, such as the therapist that he's working with. And then when he gives this to the therapist, then he gets his reinforcement. And then other examples that he has been working on is still using a full sentence of I want, but then also he has been working on more descriptive sentences. So I want, and then say the item is blue, so putting blue. And then there's a picture of a book. He has a blue book that he reads. So I want blue book, and then he would hand it to the therapist. And also they are working on that when he hands it to them, they go through and read it, that they say, I want blue book. And when he first started the system, he was nonverbal. But as they go through it and they repeat the words and go through it, they are starting to also work down here, and he is reinforced by giving to the therapist and then getting what he wants by using the pictures to communicate with others.
So there are also some PECS apps online down here. And then moving on to pod books. So another way to encourage and allow communication is through the use of communication books, or pod books, which stands for Pragmatic Organisation Dynamic Display. Pragmatic means the ways that we use language socially. Organisation is the words and symbols are arranged in a systematic way so that it's easier to find them. And dynamic display meaning changing pages. So it's something you can customise. It's made using a variety of tools. It can be laminated and bound, put in business card holders, ring binders with clear sleeves, or my son has waterproof pages in his, usually divided into categories for ease of navigation. So these books are fully customisable to the needs of the student. It can contain all communication or just parts that they find tricky. They can be made using Boardmaker if your school has it, or can be purchased at a cost. Just keep in mind that if you have too many words or options, it can make the book bulky and more difficult to use. Once it's made, it can also be tricky to add new words in. So it's generally done with a speech pathologist, but it can be bulky and heavy, and it's very time consuming to learn. So it's best used alongside verbal communication like keyword sign.
So pod books became a thing of choice, and that has worked very well for you. Yep. So we ought to dive right in and let everybody watching know what a pod book is. Okay. So is it an acronym? Does it stand for something?
Yes, it does. So it's Pragmatic Organisation Dynamic Display.
Oh, so it trips off the tongue.
That's why they're called
pod. Yes.
Yeah. So they're set up. I'll show you. This is a one-page opening book. So they're set up so that they kind of talk in the pragmatic. You can see it's set up with your pronouns there, and then maybe some verbs of moving along to your nouns. So it's set up. It's a category-based system, and it's set up with the pragmatics of you talk, so that you move along in the way that you talk. And also the dynamic display is that it's got predictably associated vocabulary with it, so all the pages are slightly different with words that are predictably associated with what you'll be talking about, so that you don't have to flick back and forward too much between them.
And this column down here,
so this column here that's a navigation column. Right. So this is typical of a single page book. So there's a massive range. It goes down to a 9 per page book, and it goes up to over 100 plus pages. Right, okay. Yeah, so it's a massive range to cover everyone's different communication needs. There's also ones that are colour coded access. There's ones that you can like put a mirror in the middle so you can use it with eye gaze. There's loads and loads of different options for books. There's ones that are just simply auditory scanning, so for people that have no vision at all, so it would just be a partner that would be reading those out and don't have pictures. There's ones that have got one. There's a massive range of books that can be accessed by lots of different people.
So in your daughter's case, how is she physically using? How is she?
So
using
she's a direct access.
Okay,
user,
so she's pointing.
So she just points to it. Okay. So this is the one she had first, which was a 20 per page. But now she's moved on. It's actually a bigger one than this. So this is a one with a side. So you can see as soon as you open that how much more vocabulary is in it.
So you mentioned that she's using direct access. If you're working with somebody who maybe hasn't got the physical ability to do that pointing, what sort of other way can you do it with eye pointing and things like that?
Yeah, so you can do it. So there are specific setups that are directly for it. So you get one it's set up like this, but it's got like a hole in the middle. So you can put a mirror in it and you can be using, so you and I could see it. Or actually it could have the hole in it.
And
I could see
okay.
what you're looking at, and it would have the bits on the back to see. So there's different ways that you could do it. Or the other more common one is partner assisted scanning. So where you would go down the column. It's set out slightly differently because the turn the page is over here on these books, because actually you don't want to have to go through all of these different columns to get to turn the page, particularly for when the person's more familiar with it, and then they can turn the page straight away without having to to do all that. So you would just be, so there's different ways you can do it, but the most common way is you would point and you would just say, I do, me, my, you do it, your turn, or no. And then you would say yes or no. Response. Yes or no to that. If it's a yes, you would then go back to them individually, or so there's different ways you can do it. Also,
the symbols, are they?
They're board maker symbols.
They're board maker symbols.
Yeah.
So it's got a connection to other more electronic versions of.
Yeah. So there's an electronic version as well. There's two. Well, there's actually 4 page sets, but there's 2 main page sets. So this is the earlier one, which is a 15 plus setup.
Yeah.
And this is the one my daughter uses, which is a 60. Right. Which looks at, I mean, it looks a lot when you do that, but she can navigate that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now I don't think that that's loads, but I know when you first look at it, you go, oh my goodness, I am
and
never
she can physically
that.
touch that, and does
she
it
can
speak?
Physically, yes.
Yes,
so you could say
feedback.
So you could say, hello.
Hello.
Okay.
More to say. I want to play. You want to play? Sensory play. You want your swing. I can pull it down for you. You want to play with your swing? Do you have something else to say? Turn the page. Goodbye. Are you done? More to say. Let's go. Let's go to school. You want to go to school, but no, I'm going to tell you something. More to say. I'm telling you something. It's going to happen. Categories. Places. School. Another word. Go back to categories.
Days and times.
Days and times. Days and times. Dun, dun, dun. 22. Days and times. Nope. Tomorrow. You'll go to school tomorrow. Okay? You'll go to school tomorrow. Turn the page. I love you. I love you.
Prolo quote to go. As we're now a technological society, there are apps at our fingertips which are more compact and user-friendly. Currently on iTunes App Store, there are 2 applications for Pod Books. Unfortunately, there's none on the Android as yet. There's one called Pod with Compass, which is an Australian made resource and uses BoardMaker signs. And then there's Prolo Quo to go. So both apps have a considerable outlay cost of $399 just for the app. You would then need to buy the tablet as well, but can potentially get covered under the NDIS where applicable. So these apps also go for half price during Autism Awareness Week, which is generally the first week in April, I believe. Why these apps are preferable is that they have everything in the one place. They're completely customizable and they're easy to add to. So they can be used by the students with a range of verbal and non-verbal abilities. They have symbols and text to speech. There's a vocabulary of over 700 items. It's fully customizable, communicating wants and needs. It's encouraging speech development, and it's using Boardmaker. So you can use it to play things, games such as Guess Who and that sort of thing. We challenge the idea that this is an app only for those who don't have speech, or those that use it will hinder speech development, because it assists students to develop and understand sentence formations and structures, and it doesn't rely on an ability to read as the words are supported by images. So here are some videos. There's one about Proloquo to Go as an example.
So I'm going to use Proloquo to Go to ask Mum a question, because I know that she's about to go to the shop.
Hello. Mom. I want.
So you'll see that as I'm selecting these items, it's building a little sentence in that message window along the top.
Ice cream. Please. I love you.
Okay, so now we're ready to go and ask Mum our question. We just select the message window.
Hello, Mom, I want ice cream, please. I love you.
And hopefully she's going to say yes, but maybe we've missed her and she's already left for the shop, so we need to get that message to her in a different way. So if I was on my phone, I might be able to send that to her as a text message. I'm on my iPad today, so I might send that to her as an email. So I'll just select the email icon, and it will take that text that I've written using the symbol support. I just need to select Mum from my contact list, and it's ready to send.
We also have an example of playing Guess Who with an app. Here it is just now.
Black hair.
Okay, let's do that.
Does your person have a black hair?
Okay, let's listen to it.
Does your person have a black hair?
How does that sound?
Yeah.
Sounds good, do you think?
Yeah.
Do we need this word? Does your person have a black hair?
No.
Okay, let's go take that word out. Try again.
Does your person have black hair?
Okay, ask Mum.
Does your person have black hair?
Yes. Yes. Okay. You've got to put down all the other ones. Okay.
Does your person have a black mustache? Does your person have a black mustache?
Can you ask now?
Does your person have black mustache?
No, Charlie. He doesn't have a black mustache. You can ask me if you got one left.
Is your man in the...
Yes! Yay! High five, Charlie.
Okay, so just a few little demonstrations there. Let's have a look then at communication boards and lanyards. So apart from communication or pod books, another easy and accessible communication option is the creation and implementation of communication boards and lanyards within school or in the home. Lanyards are especially useful for playground or outside activities. You can fully customize what is shown and having it around either the student's neck or a staff member's neck, depending on what you're more comfortable with. The other option is if the student doesn't want to wear it, then, as I said, the teacher could have it on and the student comes to them they have a way to express what they're wanting. So you can simply make it yourself, again, using Boardmaker, or we do have some available to purchase at Down Syndrome Queensland. Communication boards are also a cheap and fully individualised way to enable communication for students. You can have any size board. We usually try and encourage the bigger, the better. It's easier to read, easier to see. So it's covered in felt. The one I use with my son is just a carpet square, and then we have Velcro on the backs of the pictures, which makes it nice and easy to use. So we give them the priority options for their everyday needs, and then when they want something, they can simply raise their hand and show you what they're communicating. So you can make these boards yourself, or we can make them for you at a cost. We have a few options or lots of options depending on the student. If you type communication board into Google, you'll also get some free downloadable images there. Just remember that no matter what option you choose, the student will need to be explicitly and repeatedly taught what each sign means, the expectation around it, and appropriate or inappropriate use of those images. So the Queensland government has developed this communication board as a tool to enhance communication between paramedics and patients. This is a handy resource to have downloaded and ready to use in the classroom or in the sick bay or in the playground duty folder. If non-verbal or verbally challenged students come to you, especially the first page, which is the bigger one on the screen there, because it allows you to see where the issue may be. So this is available freely at the website that's listed on that page. And at Down Syndrome Queensland, we have available for purchase these communication banners. So you can see they're nice and large. Ideally used for the playground or the classroom. They're versatile, waterproof, they can be used by all students. They're aiding communication between students because the students can interact at the board, and it reduces behaviour incidences because the student is able to communicate effectively. So visual supports and communication. The best way for you to communicate with students is visually, as much as possible, to support whatever other communication you are using. So this can be done through visual timetables, then and next, expectations charts, rewards charts, choice boards, chore boards. We looked at these in our webinar for visual aids, which is our next webinar available next month. If you missed it and would like more information on these, contact me on the email address that I've given you. And we can use that through visual aids with schedules. So for example, Susie's all to do and all done on the left-hand side there. You teach her eventually that she can move those things over to the all done when she's finished them. Some students in the middle there like to take it off and put it in a pocket so that they can see they've finished it using the sign down the bottom. Or you can just have something working towards a reward. So once you've done all of these things, then you can have a reward. And in high school, you would see a timetable that looks something like this, coloured pictures and words to support the student as much as possible. You could then take the colours away and only have the images and the words, or then work towards just having the words. But to be honest, when I was in high school, I always coloured my timetable. So I can't imagine ever having a timetable without the colours in it. I still do it now. We have then and next available at Down Syndrome Queensland. So these ones are free to download from our shop in our website. And then you could show just an example of expectations, so voice levels and where you would find those voice levels, whole body listening if that's appropriate for your students. And then when I work, it looks like this. I sit in my chair, I'm quiet, and I put my hands down. some students that may not be appropriate for though. And then classroom rules. So having a demonstration of the classroom rules or some sort of visual support for students to understand what is expected of them. I choose. So you can do this with many activities. So you could do it in the playground, which is an example of the green one. So I choose playground, then basketball, then library. Or in the classroom doing activities, I choose reading, then worksheet, then cut and paste, or I choose yogurt, then sandwich, then banana at lunchtime. So you can use it in a variety of settings. Honour a child's behaviour as their attempt to communicate in the only way that they can at that moment. If they were able to use their words, they would. I really like that. Great reminder. What we sometimes see as a failure to behave properly is actually a failure to communicate properly or effectively. So please keep that in mind with students as well. Okay, and now we've come to question time. Again, I will say if you've got any questions at all, please contact us 3356 6655, or my email address is edsupport@downsyndromeqld.org.au. So our next webinar is on visual supports on Thursday the 16th of September, and that will start from 3:30. And just out of interest, my cheeky little man is the one on the right-hand side. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, please phone me on 3356 6655 or send me an email. My email address is edsupport@downsyndromeqld.org.au. Thank you.